Hi, this is Anthony with Graphicsphere. Today I'll be showing you how to maintain a capping station for a CJ500 and also maintain the pump. A lot of times when you go to print, you'll get some cleanings that are not improving. Sometimes when you prime, the air gets in, and these are usually the reasons why it's good to always check your capping station and pump, because if any kind of ink has dried on the capping station and pump, then probably there's no longer an airtight seal, and that's always the most important thing. Because if air's getting in, you're not going to get a good test print, and you're going to, lose color while you're printing. So what you want to do is take apart the capping station and pump out of the machine. So I'm going to turn it around so you can see. All right, so the printer's printing right now, so I'm just going to show you closely. So an SJ550 and CJ500 or SC500, you use the same parts, and this can, be used for either one of those machines. So first, to take the pump out, you unscrew one screw right here, that one, and remove it, and the pump will come off. And then remove this screw and the screw behind it, and there's two screws holding the capping station. So when you go to remove the capping station, pull it to the right. So pull it out to the right, and that way, if you look closely, there's a little thing right in here, right there, that has like a little point, so that goes inside that hole. So yeah, you won't be able to just pull it straight up. You have to pull it to the right and then out. And same with the pump too. It has like two little points that fit in a hole on the left, so that way you have to pull it to the right once you're removing it. So remove both of those, take the capping station and the pump out at the same time with the drain lines. And after I remove this, I'll explain how to look closer and see what the problems are. Alright, so now I have the capping station and pump out, and I laid it out. I removed the tubes that connect the pump to the capping station, and just have them laid down. And now what you want to look at closely is the amount of ink that's on the left side of the pump, which is the wiper area. This is the wiper. So you're going to notice a lot of ink down in here, and down inside here too. So these are the two screws for the pump, and same with the capping station. Because the wiper's built on the left side, you're going to notice a lot more ink down on the left cap too. Sometimes ink gets down in here real good. And see this track right here? It's supposed to be very loose, so it's not supposed to be hard to press down. That's like the majority of the problems. Is you'll see people that don't clean their printers after every use, and they don't check the capping station, they don't check the pump. You're going to notice ink building up that dries out and gets gummy, and they're not going to be able to the caps aren't going to be able to loosely move, and that's a main part of air getting in. too. So, you know, if the cap spring and stuff isn't loose and nice and, you know, loose like a brand new capping station, a brand new pump is, then you're gonna have problems with air getting in. Okay, so next, what I do is I take these 2 screws off, and let me show you after I do that. Okay, so now I have the left side of the pump apart. I took those 2 screws off, and this is the wiper, you know, that removes off. The spring is in there, and see all that like ink that's caked down in there? That's, you know, part of the reason why sometimes the wiper moves and then gets stuck. So it's always good to have a knife to like dig out any ink you see that's not the plastic. So like dig out all the ink inside this track. So you can even, you know, pull apart this piece and remove it if you have to, and then just, you know, put it back in there. But anything that moves on this track right here, like down in here and around here and up here, you want to clean that area really good of ink. You do not want ink, dried ink on any of those tracks, because that'll keep the wiper from moving loosely. And so you can use, like, you know, cleaning solution and stuff. Just get in there, dig it out with a knife point, and clean all that out. Okay, then all right, so to put this back on there, there's a little trick that you have to know. There's a little tooth that sticks up right there on this wiper. That tooth, let me see if I can get it in there right. That tooth needs to fit just like that, where the little point right there that's sticking out, see if I can point to it, right there, see it's under me, needs to fit inside that hole. And after you align that, now just push it together. Okay, so here's another angle of it. See that little piece that's hanging down right there? That needs to go in that white circle. Just see where it's moving right there? That needs to go in there. So just snap it together. Align those 2 holes again, right there and right there. And now just screw them back together. Okay, so I got the 2 screws back together on there. And now to check to make sure that it's working right, you want to, you know, just move it with your finger, the wiper, just to make sure that it's in the track. See that little track? That's the part that I was saying that it has to be in, because that way that's what moves the wiper back and forth with the motor. So just so you know, that's how you got to have it in there. All right, so now the pump is cleaned out, and all the ink around the wiper and everything, that's cleaned out, so that's good. And now next thing you have to know is to take apart the capping station, and we'll do the same thing. We'll clean out any ink that we see all around, and we'll unclog the lines. And all right, so put the pump aside. So now the capping station. So like I was saying, this springs, you know, it should be really loose on both sides, like the 2, but you know, you still need to you know, pull these apart. So what you do, unhook this right here, the two tubes. So I unhooked this tube and this tube that was going right to these 2. And now you can just undo that. And so next you gotta push down on this side and that pops out. The springs rest inside like these little points on there and there. So most of the time, after a while, these lines will clog, these little short little clear tubes. What you want to do is pull this off. So now you got a tube that's probably clogged. So what you want to do is you get a piece of, I would say like just a regular paper clip, like a metal paper clip, and just run the paper clip through and unclog it. You know, they're short enough where one paper clip should do the trick. So just unclog that line and then come over to here to this thing now. And sometimes this bottom piece, that's where the tube connects to, is that piece right there. You'd want to run a paper clip through that too, just to unclog that. This one's usually never clogged because that's the one that, you know, you're priming in the pump drain lines. So like that one usually doesn't clog, but this one under there does. And it just, you know, gives you more flow or suction when, you know, you're doing cleanings and stuff. So it does help. So after you unclog that with the paper clip and just inspect the area right here. Sometimes you'll have lots of ink all over this, you know, clean it off good. Take a paper clip and around the outside, just get in there, just, you know, gently, and just clean it out, any like dried up ink around it. All right, so then next you want to put it back together. So hook the tube back to that and come over here and put the tube back through the hole, leaving both springs in there. But see that there's a hole right there that tube goes in. So put the tube back through there. See how those springs like rest inside those little points on the cap? You have to get one side in first, the right side in first, and then just hold it over where the spring goes and then push down back to the left, and then it clicks in. So that's probably the hardest one, but you know, you can look in there and you know, those little points on the caps, those are what rest inside the springs, and that keeps the springs from moving out. So you got that back together now. And just do the same thing again. But this time, you have to push down on the left side, and the right side pops out. Do the same thing, just pull it out again. So leave the springs in there. Again, take the tube off and do the same thing again. Like clean around the outside with the paper clip. Take a paper clip and that little piece right there, you know, put a paper clip through it again, unclog it, and unclog this tube again. Then when you're done, put it back together. So put the tube back on. Okay, so to put it back together now, take this tube and put it through that hole again. And then again, this is the right cap, so you have to start on the left side. But again, make sure the spring is in there. The spring needs to, that little point underneath needs to be resting in the spring. That way the spring's in there. So then tuck that little side under. And then same with this side, you gotta, stick the point inside the spring, push down, and then it snaps in. So that's how you put it in there. So now you can just connect these tubes again right here. Connect this one there. The right tube goes to this one, and the left tube has like a little track that it can help hold it to it. So put it in there. All right, so there's the track. See how the track lays in there. And then this tube is connected like that. All right, so going back over what we did was we removed each one of these caps, and that way we were able to unclog these two tubes right there, because sometimes they get clogged, and take a paper clip underneath it where the tube attaches to each one and unclog that area. And also take a paper clip and gently go around each one of these, cleaning any dried up ink on the outsides of it, and that'll free it up a little, so that way it doesn't get dirty. And another thing, some of these filters sometimes restrict the rubber gasket around it, so that's also what you need to check. Sometimes I only keep a one sponge in there instead of two, because sometimes if you have two sponges inside these caps, it might stick up, and then it causes the ink to drain through. So you got to make sure that these tops of the caps aren't sticking out, because they need to, let me see if I can zoom in close. See how they're like down in there and they're not sticking out, and it needs to have some room down in there so they're not sticking out touching any of the head underneath there, because that'll cause the ink to drain through, because any little pressure on the head, it'll cause the ink to leak out of the head. So you got to make sure your cap doesn't have anything sticking out like the sponge or the screen. Some people put metal screens in there, and sometimes the metal screens can get in the way. So right now, as long as you have one sponge in there and it's sticking down underneath each one of these little points, then you should be good to go. So just remember these little sponges under there, you got to make sure that they're not sticking out, and they need to be underneath those little tabs. There's 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. There's 12 little rubbery tabs that hold the sponge in there. So you got to make sure that those tabs are above the sponge and the sponge is underneath. All right. Okay, so let me explain how these tubes work, because some You know, sometimes you might put the wrong tube on, and that's maybe why too, that it's not going through, like not cleaning right, or you know, pumping up right. All right, so there's two tubes, one for the left head and one for the right head. Same with the pump. There's two parts of the pump, one for the head, left head, and one for the right head. So to make sure you did this right, you first look up the left. So we'll be talking about the left head first, the left side of the pump. So here's the drain line that, you know, goes all the way down to the drain bottle. So follow this up. This goes on the very top, the left pump, and it goes in first this way. So I don't know if you can see that closer. That's how it goes. It goes down and in to this part, then goes around underneath, and then through here. So it goes down, up, and then back underneath, and then this is the part that attaches to the cap, the left cap. So the right drain line's right here, and that one's going to go underneath. So, and then it goes again towards the front. So it's the bottom one. Then it goes again, it starts in the front, goes around, then back up, and then comes out through this one right here. And then this one goes into the cap. So again, follow it. Goes down towards there, and comes back up in the front, and goes out to the drain line. So that's how you put them back together. So then just screw them back into the printer. And now, one other tip, Goo Gone, because Goo Gone is good for like cleaning up kind of like stickiness, like anything that gets sticky. So what'll help is if you like squirt some where the you know, this motor goes, where the gear is, and that way it'll make it a lot looser in there. Goo Gone does, because anything that feels kind of sticky, it's gonna make it nice and loose. So just a tip. So there you go. And that's all for today. If you need any more videos, just let me know in the comments, and I'll talk to you soon.